And onto the stage, indeed, we are calling Rasmus Kjaergaard, the CEO of Mindway AI. Apologies, Rasmus, and welcome to the stage. Take the microphone.
Thank you. The data crunching part was partly correct. Thanks, Willem, for asking me to speak. We finally did it. You for once you followed my advice on space in the market for a Nordic event, and I'm actually happy to be here because I'm speaking at home turf for once here in Copenhagen, or actually it's double home turf. It's the group headquarters of our majority owner, but it's also a little bit away turf because, as some of you may know, Mindway AI is based in what I normally outside of Denmark explain as continental Denmark, meaning Jutland and the second largest city of Aarhus. Now, football is on the agenda these weeks, so I think we should start there. 40 years ago, 1986. I'm not talking about that. That was the last time, in contrary to this year, also that Aarhus actually won the Danish football championship. I was referring to that in 1986. And then I'm look at middle-aged people I know from Denmark who remember that the summer of 1986 was a mythological, epic summer for the Danish national team because it was the first time we actually was part of the World Cup, which was in Mexico. Now, the World Cup has come back to Mexico, and we are not in it. So we have to, and I'm very happy that we can do that, cheer for the Norwegians. I heard some drunk Norwegians in a radio interview the other day talking about they're going to win the World Cup. Then the day before, I heard some Swedish people cheering after Sweden won 5-1, that they just want to be the Norwegians. That's Nordic love, and the rest of us will do our best to cheer and hope one of them will succeed. Well, over in Aarhus, the World Cup means that we have ramped up monitoring of the gambling operators we serve in our hosting center because as we talk about this business opportunity Jesper mentioned this morning, then obviously that comes with a lot of bets. It comes also with a lot of tracking in the systems we provide to our software as a service customers. And also, in all fairness, to try to use a little bit of the attention on the World Cup. Jesper Kjaergaard earlier today mentioned that on Thursday last week, the day where we launched, the World Cup was started, we launched our new variant of the self-test, gamified self-test as a football penalty shootout, but based on neuroscience theory. This has been launched with Better Collective and their 30 plus brand sites globally, but also it has been launched with DraftKings in the US. For those of you who do not know DraftKings, they're one of the biggest operators in the US. And when I started pitching that idea some months ago, they had no clue. They wanted some other sports, an American sport we should develop to them. But then a month ago, suddenly they have heard about the World Cup. So in a weird, indirect way, we see ourselves also a little bit taking part of the World Cup with that. Anyways, I'm here to speak about responsible gambling in protected markets. And I think for me, a very important point is that we have to remember that behind every customer ID, there is a human being. In protected markets, player protection is about, and responsible gambling is about a lot of different things, different elements. We have seen it all day with the different speaks. We have decided early days to focus on two things, the bespoke self-test area and also tracking of gambling behavior in a wider sense to support much better, much more individualized data-driven behavioral tracking of the gambling behavior. Gambling regulation in Nordic countries in particular, which I guess was the reference to protected markets, but also elsewhere, outline obligations to track gambling behavior. It also outlines obligations for gambling companies to have self-tests on their websites. What we have seen now with this approach, where we, based on neuroscience theory, gamify self-tests, is that we can actually make self-tests more engaging, less biased, more actionable, and by that actually also done in a way where self-awareness is actually promoted. We know that because now, as per this week, we have done in this system, starting out as a card game, now a soccer game. When we talk about it in the US, over here we don't call soccer for soccer, but we call soccer for football, and that's a funny thing in our marketing department. We know that more than 110,000 self-tests has actually been completed. We see completion rates well above 70% when we compare the numbers of self-tests started. We have a complete actionable a set of measures to the player who do this anonymously, and also free specific advice. We see this traffic across a variant field of different customers who have adopted this solution. That is gambling operators, it's land-based operators, so gambling operators online, land-based operators, regulators, formerly also a helpline, and a sports media group, and currently in 24 different countries and counting. So we see this as a huge opportunity to potentially increase the whole idea of increased self-awareness. And obviously, when I think of the networking event in just a few minutes after Jeff has had his presentation, then, higher self-awareness is something we do all the time. For instance, at the networking event, I have a couple of bosses, 3 actually, in the room currently. So obviously I have some self-awareness around how many drinks do I do in the networking drinks. Can I drive home, or do I take the train? I take the train, but that's not because of the drinks. And so should players do as well when they're gambling. That's, you could say, from the player's own perspective. But obviously, tracking of the gambling behavior, Jesper mentioned it, touched upon it in his speak, Jesper Kjaergaard, sorry, that sophisticated tracking of the gambling behavior based on behavioral science and behavioral psychology is an element that can actually enhance player protection. We know that now. We just, this week, again, we did the monthly stats, and now we're just past the 15 million active players per month we track with Game Scanner in 48 countries, including Denmark, Sweden as well. And what that approach of a holistic picture on each individual gambling behavior provides of opportunities to enhance the player protection is actually quite exciting. It's also very, very much in line with my statement before, that behind every customer ID there is a human being. And the challenge in all this is that it is gambling behavior is an individual human behavior. But when you have a customer database of a couple of million, as some of our customers have in the biggest markets they're in, then it's pretty difficult to actually handle that individualized. So obviously we need some sophisticated tech that can do that. More of that, and a daily follow up on the gambling intensity, a follow up of a proper way to look into if these interactions we do on the player on the individualized basis actually also work. On top of that, giving everybody who uses the software, who utilizes the software, who audit the software or the outcome of it, an opportunity to actually understand what is it that is tracked with this specific player is crucial. And for that, I would say, and also agree with Jesper Kjaergaard about, there are elements in the regulation and in the standards where improvements could be made. In general, the standards and regulation, even in the most regulated countries, including Denmark, Sweden, Netherlands, Germany as well, on specific elements, very vague. And I think it has something to do with that sophisticated tech in this area actually is still quite young. That's also why we have taken part in driving driving initiatives around increased standards. We have been part of the European standardization project of outlining standardized markers of harm, together with on the Danish vote. It was you and I, Anders, or some of our team, respectively, representing Denmark in that European championship, you could call it. And also we have been part in there's a couple of global initiatives in the same respect, which we have taken part of, which one of them has been related to the United Nations General Assembly and the G7 summits I've been participating in. And all this for trying to be part of the movement to enhance player protection. In all countries throughout the world, well, let's face it, most operators, if not all operators, talk to us if they have to, due to regulation, not because they want to. I think that's quite clear to say, meaning we have not that many requests from unlicensed operators because they are not. Why should they buy our software? Now, even in regulated countries, we have this pushback saying, I hear it all the time, RAS, you have a brilliant and amazing system. Sounds like we're in the US here, but anyways. But it seems to me that such systems steal my revenue as an operator. If I follow the risk tracking and your advice on how to deal with the players. But we can actually now document that's not actually the case. We have customers who even uninstructed from us by themselves publicly say that our software, they can see in their data that our software enhances the lifetime of the player so much that the lifetime value that goes up with the lifetime enhancement or prolongation actually exceeds the short-term loss of high-risk players that you normally would have when you deploy a more sophisticated tracking system. And obviously that's a huge thing for us that we can actually get that documented and use that as a driver, because then there's potentially actually not a reason for not doing this in a theoretical sense. And obviously such systems could also come across with increased protection against reputational damage from here it says shit cases, sorry about that. Bad publicity and regulatory fines, and stuff like that. So I would say if you are in this for the long run, or any length of run in a protected market, then efficient tracking of the gambling behavior and increase of awareness with the players is not just a regulatory and compliance tick box, but it is also business optimization, protection of gambling operator revenue, enhancing the player protection and optimizing the business, what's not to like. But this is, and I'm concluding here now, this is a journey that has just started. The use of sophisticated technology and data-driven behavioral tracking of gambling behavior is still early, young. We see something called AI have entered the space. When we started 6 years ago, we had to explain it in all calls what is AI. Now we have to explain what type of AI it is, because everybody thinks that large language models is AI. It isn't only. Some of these technologies are not developed for for very specific things like tracking of gambling behavior. However, they hold a significant opportunity, which we are already working on utilizing in other senses of this whole value chain, from tracking of the gambling behavior to properly interacting with the player in the full journey in all stages. And of course, another huge thing we look into and work with now is actually doing some proper tech support for this area called interactions, which is normally considered a very unresearched area. It is also a very fragmented area with several different tools, and we tend to do some real stuff there as well. So stay tuned. Exciting times ahead.
Thank you very much, Rasmus. And before I send you off, is there maybe a question from the audience for Rasmus? Maybe about AI?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Yeah. Are you worried that gambling companies might think of AI and even worse, large language models as an easy solution to get to responsible gambling?
No.
Okay, great.
Well, let me explain a little bit.
Yeah.
So, to elaborate, I recently saw a quote from Martin Thorborg, who is a famous Danish entrepreneur, have developed several very successful companies, saying that everybody can build AI. That's actually the same position as gambling operators hold on tracking systems for your information, but not that many can build the whole framework around such a solution. And that goes exactly the same with tracking systems. Yeah. We see operators all the time try to develop in-house. What we say to them is, we wish you all the best. And what we think to ourselves when that happens is, see you in 6 months.
Exactly.
And quite a few of them actually calls before those
3
6
months.
months.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Thanks very much, Rasmus. Thanks very much.